So today's series of texts, going from the Old Testament to the New Testament to the Gospel, okay, are one of these things that really do a great job of pulling out a theme you will see throughout the entirety of the Bible. And it's this theme of what do we as Christians understand, or how does God understand the concepts of power and strength versus how the world understands power and strength. Okay? And to dig into this, we got to start at the beginning. Start in the Old Testament. You have this amazing moment in Habakkuk. He's standing there, and you got to sort of vision this out with me. He's standing there on top of a big wall. Think of a giant castle surrounding the city. He's out there, and he's on one of the ramparts, the big square parts, where like the archers would stand. And he's up there, he's got a shield, he's got a spear, and he looks out upon the land. And it's dark at night. I don't know about you. I think all of us, especially as adults, have these nights where our soul is restless, where it's hard to sleep. Habakkuk is having one of those nights. He looks out there and he says, God, the world is insane. The bad guys are winning, the good guys are losing. Every time I turn around, justice is perverted in some way or some other way. The poor are being trampled. All these horrible things are going on. I just can't sleep. My brain is racing. And the biggest question it has is, where are you? I think most of us, if we're honest, have had that conversation with God at least once in our life, probably at 2 a.m. in the morning. That's what's going on to Habakkuk. And God responds with what feels like the most not helpful statement. He's like, oh, Habakkuk, I'm still here. What I want you to do is take all those concerns, write them out on a tablet so that we can distribute them to everybody. Yeah, Habakkuk's response is not happy. But I think a lot of us feel that way sometime, right? A lot of us have that time where our brains are racing at 2 in the morning. And our soul is unsettled because of what we see in the world. Jump forward to the New Testament writer, out to Timothy. We're talking from a prison, and he's like, hey, Jesus, I know you lived, died, was resurrected, has ascended, send us out to go proclaim the world. But here's the thing, us evangelists you sent out, we keep getting killed, and I'm currently in prison, and things ain't looking good for me, because you usually go in a Roman prison. You don't come out of a Roman prison, with your head. So, that grand plan you had there, God, could we get around to, doing it? Because this doesn't feel so great. This doesn't feel like the good guys are going to win. See, he's having that dark night of the soul too. Thousands of years later, in a Roman prison. The gospel answers the problem. The gospel provides the answer by saying, guys, you keep looking at power and strength in a worldly way. And absolutely, if you use the ruler and metrics of this world, we are failures. But the problem's the ruler. The problem's the metric. The problem's not us. God knows what real power and real strength looks like, and it's really different than what the world says. And he gives you 2 plants at that point. He says you got a mulberry tree and you got the mustard tree. So let's start off with mulberry trees, because if anyone here has any sense of land, you probably have a mulberry tree trying to grow somewhere, right? I know I do. Okay? Who here has seen a mulberry tree in your life? Raise your hands. Anyone had the fun of trying to cut one down? Because I have. Yeah, worst contract I ever took as a college student. Man. So mulberry trees, if you're not familiar, become massive. They are these huge trees that reach to the sky. They have branches everywhere, and branches that begot branches, which beget branches. So it's like 1,000 little fingers of branches going everywhere. And if you're lucky, you get mulberries that fall down and make you incredibly good pies. If you need a recipe, ask me later. So, when you look at a mulberry tree, they are impressive. They are mighty. They are strong. And it's easy to delude yourself into thinking that is such a mighty and strong tree, there's nothing I can do about it. Then you got the mustard tree. Now, the mustard tree, the Guinness World Record says that the tallest mustard tree that ever existed was 40 feet tall, which is a decently sized tree, but nowhere near a good-sized mulberry, right? And the ancient times, we wouldn't really describe a mustard tree as a tree. It'd be more described as like an overgrown bush. Sort of like if you have hedges and you decide for a few years, I'm not going to go ahead and do anything about it, you get something that you could argue to your neighbors is a tree, but it's really just a giant bush that's gone out of control, right? That's how mustard bushes - trees work. They're not big. They're not grand. They're sort of like dogwoods. You never get that thick. But there's a thing about mustard trees. They're impossible to get rid of. A, they throw seeds everywhere, and where a mustard seed falls, you will get a mustard tree very quickly, especially if you're in the environment of Israel. And two, let's say you're like, well, I'll just cut this sucker down. Well, it's one of those trees that sends saplings in every which direction through its root system the minute you take it out. So you cut down one mustard tree, it says, thank you, you have planted a dozen more. They're impossible to kill because they just keep coming back. They're essentially a weed, a persistent, never-ending, ever-fighting weed. And see, this illustrates the difference between how the world looks at strength and how God looks at strength. The world looks for things that are big and grand and mighty and strong and rigid. They want to rock. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to look for that mulberry tree. But over and over and over again, both history, philosophy, and theology proves that that mustard tree, that agile, fast, resilient tree, wins. Dinosaurs, big and strong, right? Meteor, something comes and wipes them out. What survives? Anyone know? The meteor takes out and little mammals, right? Like rats. Rats survive. Right? That's how mammals come to be. Why? Because rats are resilient. You have one in your house, you have a dozen. You do nothing about the dozen, you'll have thousands. Go to New York City. Okay? You think it's hard, they literally have a rat czar. And they're still losing. Okay? Because agile and fast and flexible always beats big and strong. The Revolutionary War, guys. The British Empire was at its top. It had millions of troops, billions of dollars, massive technological advantage, and a group of farmers with rifles won. Because after 10 years, they're like, that's fine, Massachusetts, goodbye. Right? It's not just then. You want to look at who's beaten Afghanistan or Afghanistan's beaten them? Alexander the Great, lost. British Empire, lost. Soviet Union, lost. We spent 20 years. Looks just like it did before we got there. Not because we lacked military might, not because we weren't glorious, we weren't massive, we weren't strong. But dude, resilience. You can't defeat it. Adaptability, you can't defeat it. But what's the lesson for us? What's the lesson in our faith lives? Too often we look at ourselves and we measure ourselves by these worldly standards. We go, well, I'm not a mighty person in faith. I don't exude purity and light where I go and speak of all the Gospels and quote every single thing, because we all know that one person who's in our family who can like quote the Bible backwards and forwards, right? And we're like, man, we're not that dude. But the reality is that dude might be super rich. It might be a giant mulberry tree. One good guy with a chainsaw, and that's done. Real faith, real strength, isn't derived by glory and giant buildings, isn't derived by being rigid and strong. It's by being resilient. It's by getting back up, no matter how many times you get knocked down. It's by spreading the faith like the mustard tree spreads itself. Because, well, you can take out one tree, you might have just borne 7 more. And you take those, and you got 14. And it just keeps going on and on. See, that's the actual strength that God looks for. That's the actual way he looks for churches to organize themselves. That's actually how he wants people of God to live. Churches make this mistake all the time. Whether or not you're an evangelical church building these insane like LED walls with massive structures, you have no clue what I'm talking about, just go Google this. Or if you're a Catholic church building marble towers to God when there are people starving all around them. Check out the cathedral in Los Angeles. If you're doing that, you're missing the point. The point isn't about grandeur. The point isn't about being the biggest, strongest, massive thing. That sort of faith crumbles and is weak. There's dozens of giant, gorgeous churches all over this place from all sorts of denominations that are going to be condos in the next 20 years. Real faith, real strength is the person that gets up and prays in the morning. Who's able to, when you ask them, how has God changed your life? Can tell you, maybe not eloquently, maybe not in front of a dozen people, but has something real to say, profound to say. Well, it might be quiet and it might be subtle and there might be a lot of, well, I just don't know. Those real moments of faith signal far more strength, far more courage, far more resilience than any building accomplishment or talent. So as you go out this week in your prayer life, take a few minutes and ask yourself, what sort of faith are you building inside? Are you building a showy faith that looks strong and is rigid like a rock? Or are you making a stronger faith? A faith built around resilience, flexibility, and endurance. For God calls us far more times to persevere than he calls us to be strong. Amen.